I'm with Rob James, the Carmarthenshire Labour leader, a councillor for the Llanelli ward in Llanelli. Rob, you've just seen the First Minister's questions, press conference, and his latest changes to the restrictions. Are you happy with them? Do you think he could have gone further? I mean, especially given the extremely low rates now and the speed of the vaccination programme. Living here in Carmarthenshire, Ceredigion, with hardly any cases at all. Do you think this should be focused more on a regional, sort of localised way of lifting restrictions? We all seem to be lumped in again with this Cardiff-based approach.
Yeah, I agree with you in terms of, the case numbers are looking good. 36 per 100,000 is the figure for Carmarthenshire right now. We've nearly had 200 communities in Wales that have had zero COVID cases in the last week, which is an absolutely fantastic news. It just shows the enormous amount of work that the public are doing to adhere to the restrictions. I think the announcement today is one that generally the public would support, because a lot of the feedback we get is just go slow and steady. Let's not let the cases rise exponentially again. And everyone just doesn't want another lockdown, to be honest. I think we're all really tired of these lockdowns. We've been in a lockdown now for, I think, 80 days. This is the third lockdown. So we need to make sure that this is the last one. Vaccinations, that's actually going really well now as well. So the announcement today just provides, a rough roadmap into how we are going to reopen the economy in a slow and steady and sensible manner. And hopefully, should everything go in the right way, then we'll be on the other side of this quite soon.
We have been inundated with sort of messages from people complaining that he hasn't gone far enough. People who see supermarkets opening up and their small businesses unable to open up. People, as you say, who've been sitting in a pressure cooker for so long now, desperate to go out and walk. The stay local 5-mile limit with guidance, roughly. As you know, some people, it's 30, 40 miles just to go to the beach, let alone to the shops in rural, mid and West Wales, the region you're standing for. How do you think he will? Do you think he's more likely now to take notice of that kind of thing and start to open things up a lot sooner? Do you think, I know we've got the 3-week reviews. I put it to him that he should do it on a weekly basis. Would you agree with that?
I think the 3 weekly reviews are needed for the science, because there's a lag period in identifying where there is a causation for cases to go up. So it could be the cases now that we make a particular decision that increases cases quite quickly. And we will only notice that within that 3-week period. So we have to give it some time for us to get the data and think, no, that's fine. Let's go again. Let's carry on going. And we need them stop-start approach to ensure that is all done in a safe manner. The 5-mile rule, that, as we exhibited last time, that you're going to have a case where someone living in, parts of rural Carmarthenshire, their nearest supermarket is going to be further than 5 miles. And the approach that they say now is just be sensible. There's flexibility on that 5 miles. We're not telling you can go 50 miles, but we're not saying that you absolutely have to stay on that 5 miles. There's a tiny bit of flexibility with that to ensure that rural areas are being supported.
He mentioned the elections and the opening up for leafletting, not allowing canvassing, knocking on doors, possibly a good thing for local candidates because they won't face the barrage of abuse from people within those homes. But are you happy with that? Would you have liked him to allow the canvassing? I know, I guess the stats and all of those things have to change, but couldn't you just sort of knock the door like the BBC News do with the boom, with standing the 2 meters away? And do you think he could have given a bit more leeway there?
I think with modern day technology and the way that we are in society at the moment, there's plenty of opportunities to discuss issues with the local electorate. We are canvassing and we are campaigning right now virtually or remotely So, it's not like the candidates don't have the chance. And look, I'd love to be able to speak to people on the doorstep. That's something I really enjoy in my role, is to have that one-on-one conversations about, and hear from people exactly how our decisions are impacting them. I think it's very difficult for us to say, look, we're not going to let you go to a beer garden right now, but do you fancy answering a few questions that we have about your local, your local area? I think people will see it as self-serving. We'll see it as us being interested more in ourselves than the lives of other people. So no, I think Mark's made the right decision here. Obviously, the leafleting is only within your stay local area, so you won't see candidates, hopefully, going from large distances to leaflet. I think obviously he's indicated that this stay local message hopefully will only last for a couple of weeks, and then we'll have the opening up of travel across Wales. So there's going to be plenty of opportunities for us to speak to the electorate and leaflet in due course.
Yeah, you say that people wouldn't want you knocking on the door, but I think the opposite. I think this is probably one of those times where the majority of people, more people than ever, would be interested in speaking face to face with elected, candidates to vent really their frustrations, maybe their concerns, their angers, and so on. So anyway, we'll see what he does with that. But looking at the election again now, and you'll be aware that we've received a couple of emails and from people purporting to be people that maybe they're not. We've checked, we do our checks. Unfortunately, some people do get through. Are you concerned that there may be dirty tricks here at work within, sort of the different parties?
I think during election time, there's always individuals within parties that try to create some noise and create some headlines. I think, personally, I'm more interested in having them conversations. Anything that I put out in my name, and people can clearly identify when I'm saying things and what I'm saying. So, it's up for individuals to fight an election on the tone in which they want to. But I think what is clear, speaking to a lot of the residents right now, is that people are tired of this back and forth politics. Or they said this, he said that, she said this, and people just want a bit of leadership. People want to see some vision for the future. We can't just stay still. We need to move Wales forward. And I think, obviously, political parties are going to do what they're going to do. But me personally, and my campaign is always one where we highlight what we need to do and offer solutions to them problems.
You say that, but looking at history, the Welsh Labour government have been in power now for over 20 years. And Llanelli, I was born and bred there. I'm not sure if you were born and bred in Llanelli, but I remember Llanelli going back before that period. And it was a boom town. It was a fantastic place to live. Social life, activity, towns, businesses, independent traders, sport teams, you name it. It's on its knees, Rob. It's on its knees. Who do you blame for that? Is that the Welsh Labour government? They have been in government for 20 years.
Well, when you look at town centres, who's largely responsible for town centres? It's the county councils. Obviously, they ensure that we have good projects. Now, there has been investment in Llanelli town centre. Does it go further or far enough for me? Absolutely not. And I think anyone would look at Llanelli town centre, but they will also look at Ammanford town centre and Carmarthen town centre. And some of the issues that are happening right now, you can see with the collapse of Debenhams, that is going to be a big problem, not just for our area, but for other areas in Wales. They have very large units, and it's going to be hard to repurpose them. So obviously the transition, the move to the internet is impacting retail significantly right now. And what we need to do is offer an alternative for our town centres. So what we are calling for is for education to come in. Let's build some schools in the heart of our town centre. Let's have sports facilities in our town centre. Let's make them more of a place, rather than just a retail offer, a multitude of different things that you can do in the town centre that will help actually, let's be honest, towns weren't created just for shops. It was part of something much bigger. And obviously, over the years, it was a concentration on the retail offer. I don't think we can go on that now. And, just relying on anchor stores shows there's an issue with there as well. Just because there's a big name doesn't mean that is going to transform the area and that's going to ensure people shop locally. We need strong, local, independent shops that are supported financially by both our council and also the Welsh Government.
Plaid Cymru are doing that, don't they? I mean, they are knocking down buildings. They are repurposing whole swathes of the town. Do you applaud them for that? Or, are they doing enough?
They are doing some, so the Welsh Government and the Commercial County Council are working in collaboration on some really good, exciting projects. Some of the proposals for YMCA in Llanelli is, that's quite exciting. I think what we are trying to say is sometimes regeneration is building something new to try and create prosperity. We are more for refreshing, renewing, reviving, restoring. There's some beautiful buildings in our town centres that often people just want to knock down and start again. We would quite like to see them restored and put into a different use maybe, but to ensure that we remember our history. So there's some great schemes going on right now. Obviously, the old Alitalia, you can see that's come down now and that's going to be going up. Obviously, that's in my ward. And there's proposals as well for Market Street that you will know of as well. And that's quite exciting. So there are some things that's happening. But when we come to our manifesto, I'm sure there's going to be a commitment from our party that town centres need investment and we will invest in them.
Labour have had the time in the council in Carmarthenshire. They've been in power for quite often for long periods. We've seen, looking just at things like the small schools closures, that was a Labour initiative early on. You are now fighting that. People will sort of see some of these things as political point scoring, and they have heard now for 20 years most Labour politicians in the Assembly and then the Senedd always referring to, it's not us, it's Westminster's fault, it's Westminster's fault. We've got, poverty, that's the target's not being met, homelessness, people on food banks that are working in jobs, pollution of Sandy Road beyond any reasonable levels, lack of jobs, play areas. You have to fight tooth and nail to get a set of swings in your ward. If you put Westminster aside and we stop political point scoring and blaming people, can you tell the people of your ward and Llanelli what it is you plan to do to address some of these major issues that are impacting on so many people's lives in the town?
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think the public don't really want this back and forth. They don't want this knocking off each other just for politics' sake. What I'm seeing is, look, when Labour came into power last, I was in my teens. I'm a new politician in a sense that's trying to bring some new ideas to the table. And it does mean a rethink on a lot of the policy areas. You talk about 21st century schools. Great policy. We need some new schools. But make sure that it's the right schools in the right places for those communities. And also understanding the impact. So are we thinking about transportation? What is the impact on transportation? And then how is that knocking on a carbon footprint agenda? If we build a new school that requires people to go on dirty diesel traffic, that's not going to help our plan of being a net zero carbon council. So all the policies have to match up. And that's what we are trying to do right now, is to speak to officers and give an alternative to some of these. So yes, we need new schools. Welsh Labour, as part of the Welsh Labour government, we've put in a lot of money, awful lot of money, hundreds of millions over the years into building new schools. Absolutely fantastic, and we will continue to do so. But we do need to recognise that for rural communities, they are the heart of our communities. So if the community wants a new school, then we need to talk to them about how we build that. And if we are taking something from that area, as in that building no longer has been used, how are we replacing that? What is the community getting in return for it? Are they getting free transportation on a clean electric bus to the new school? in addition to community facilities, maybe a new community hall with play facilities and things like that. I'm not saying that we should never, ever close a school, but there should be a presumption against closing schools. And that is what we are trying to emphasize and strengthen, is that they are the heart of the community. We need to protect them as best as possible, especially when it comes to the Welsh language. I think, Cymdeithas yr Iaith are doing a fantastic job when it comes to Mynyddig Garreg right now, and some of the work that they are highlighting right there. So we can do some great things there. So, that is just one policy area where we are trying to reshape the way that we think about it. Sometimes we're stuck in this 90s kind of mentality of what something is supposed to be, and we've moved on a long way from there. So we need to reshape our thinking.
Yeah, there's definitely a lack of joined-up thinking and a joined-up long-term planning for places. You're a young councillor. You're there in the meetings. You're sitting in that sort of horseshoe arrangement with the different political factions there. There's always been a claim that there's a big divide between what Llanelli gets and what Carmarthen gets. And if you look at the political makeup, obviously Llanelli heavy on Labour, Carmarthen heavy on Plaid Cymru. Do you think at all that there is any almost political punity from Plaid towards Llanelli, a sort of a contempt almost, that, look, we're not going to give you it because you're mourning, we're not going to give you it because you're Labour, we're not going to give you or cooperate with you because we don't particularly like the way you speak to us in the meetings. Does any of that go on? I'm intrigued to know from you, from inside. Do you think that's part of it?
No, I wouldn't say it is, to be honest. There's always cases where, for periods of time, investment is put in certain areas, and you will never hear me as a Labour councillor in Llanelli saying we shouldn't get more money for investment in our area. I will always stand up for my local communities, and I will always shout as loud as I can for investment to come into our areas. But I don't think, whether it be Labour in power, whether it be Plaid Cymru in power, that they would make decisions based on who the councillor is and what political banner they are carrying at that occasion. Because frankly, if that was going on in Carmarthenshire, the residents of all of Carmarthenshire would have enough to say about that. I think that would be deeply, deeply irresponsible and reckless to our democracy.
Lee Waters' majority is very, very slight. We've seen in recent months, Lee has been in the spotlight for the coronavirus restrictions and travelling. Helen Mary now in the spotlight for her tweets and so on. You are standing against a very strong candidate, Adam Price, as well. The polls predict that Labour are going to have quite a hammering at the Senedd elections. Do you think you're in with a chance?
I think it's one of the most unpredictable elections, and that's honestly, it is one of the most unpredictable elections that I've been involved in. And I've been involved with every election in the last 10 years. Speaking to individuals, there's a lot of uncertainty about the way that people are going to vote. I think gone are the days where people just vote Labour because they've always voted Labour, or just vote Plaid Cymru because their parents voted Plaid Cymru, or anything like that. I think people are looking at how the Welsh Government is handling the coronavirus pandemic, how the vaccination rollout is going, how is their community councillor and county councillor supporting their village? Are they getting a good deal? Is there local issues? I think there's so much to play. We've seen in the last Senedd elections, but it was called Assembly at that point in 2016, that local issues, whether it be in Blaenau Gwent, whether it be in Rhondda, whether it be in Neath and Llanelli and Cardiff West, local issues have a major role in how people vote. So, I will never suggest that, Llanelli is going to be Labour forever, or that is going to go to Plaid Cymru, or that Carmarthen East and Dynefra should never have a Labour representative, or, any of that kind of predictions, because I think that if you offer a good alternative to people, if you make clear what you believe the issues are in the area, and what your solutions are, because people want solutions to the problems. They don't just want people just moaning about things. Then you have an opportunity for the electorate to say, okay, we'll have a go. We'll support that individual and we'll see what happens. I think I think Lee's done a fantastic job in Llanelli. I think he's he's been a fresh air. He's been there for what now, coming up to 5 years, and he's brought new ideas to the table, and he's standing up for the town centre at the moment and trying to get more investment in the area. So I do hope that people do support him, and the other fantastic Labour candidates across Wales.
Do you think young people are looking for an alternative, a new party, a new political, sort of politically driven mechanism, machine, policies, whatever you want to call it, given now that we have the possibility of one of the strangest Welsh governments we've ever seen, whereby we may have a coalition with Plaid and the Conservatives, and possibly including members of a party who want to abolish the Assembly? What are your views on that? Certainly with the people who want to abolish the Assembly having the ability to get a seat there. Do you think they should be allowed? I mean, democracy has to be carried out. But would you vote for somebody who wants to abolish the Assembly, having been given the devolution?
Well, personally, I wouldn't. Obviously, back in 2011, I was heavily involved with Yes for Wales, which was a movement to get lawmaking powers for the first time in Wales, to try and get some of the tools to do the job that was necessary for it. So, I've always been a strong advocate for devolution. I think we need to go further. I think we need more powers for our Senedd, to be honest. I think policing can come down. I think broadcasting, we can do a lot more to support news outlets such as yourself if we had broadcasting powers and more finances to go along with that. So, no, I think... Look, I don't subscribe to abolishes kind of politics. So personally, I would never vote for them. But obviously in a democracy, you have to respect people's opinions. Talking about younger people, people aged 16 to 17 could be able to vote for the first time in this election. And that's obviously a cross-party initiative. But the Welsh Labour government put it down. So it's great to see that they have got the vote this time. And speaking to young people, they want change. They're not happy with the status quo. You can see from Yes Cymru, the enormous membership growth that they've had over the lockdowns. People are crying out for change. And speaking to young people in particular, they want patriotic individuals. They want some people that care about Wales and their local communities, but they're not happy with the status quo. So I think what we need to do is be listening to these young people, the people of the future, and say, right then, what is it that you really want? What is the end goal? What do you see as the solution to these issues?
Plaid Cymru have laid their cards firmly on the table with regards to independence. The polls still put it at sort of 60-40 in favour of remaining in the union. Mark Drakeford is going down that line. Do you think that when all this pandemic is over and the elections have been done and dusted, that Wales should have a referendum again on independence?
I think what we need to establish is what is independence. I've read Plaid Cymru's Independence Commission cover to cover, so I understand what they're asking for. They're asking for the continuation of the monarchy. They're asking for the continuation of the pound, some sharing of sovereignty when it comes to border control, a shared army. That looks an awful lot like confederalism or federalism, depends on the terminology used. So I think what we need to do, now I've been working quite closely with Mick Anthony, who's calling for a commission, like from a grassroots up, a people's voice on what is it that we need in a future Wales, and just having politicians decide on whether we have independence or what powers we share. We've noticed from the Brexit debate that not having a clear end goal is difficult. People voted Brexit for various reasons. People voted for an FTA. People, a free market membership of the single market, but they want to be membership of the political union. People voted for real different reasons when it comes to Brexit, and people's individual ideas of Brexit change even within households. So I think what we need to do is, if we are to have more powers, or if we are to create a confederal kind of state or federalism within the UK, we need to identify what is it. What powers do we think we should have? Do we share sovereignty when it comes to controlling our borders? Do we share sovereignty when it comes to international relations? Do we share an army to defend our borders? Are these the kind of things that people want? Great. Okay, then we need to do that. But we want more powers when it comes to pretty much everything else. I think it's a worthy discussion. I think we do need to have it, especially after the election. I think we need to identify what is the future of Wales.
Okay, that's great. Rob James, thanks very much for speaking to us. Thank you.
Thank you.